Hey folks, we'll be dealing with a video expose entitled Lee Daniels Movie Set Curse, The Deliverance, and Past Horror Movie Set Curses. Now, those of you know, it's been much to do about Lee Daniels' Netflix movie, The Deliverance, came out several weeks ago, and it talks about people being demon possessed and delivered from demons. However, there's interviews out there. I think one with Lee Daniels and the cast from Deliverance being interviewed by the Breakfast Club. How he really goes into details about the amount of demonic activity that was taking place during the filming of this movie, and how they would have ministers on the set every day praying over the set and was still having demonic activity. I kind of find it ironic where he follows a different type of lifestyle, doesn't really embrace the word of God, but yet and still he wants to have his cake and eat it too, and have a minister praying for a demonic movie that promotes really much the demonic. In the interview, he did state that he did read the initial book that The Exorcist was based upon, and wanted to take precaution measures of having somebody praying on the set, but still was having the same results. People have to realize this is more than just entertainment. When you start to dabble in things with the occult or with demons and demonic activity, it opens up a portal or a doorway for demons to enter in. And also, too, you give people or the spirit realm legal rights to be entitled to cause havoc on there, because you're promoting this type of material on the movie screen. And again, it's more than just entertainment. We will examine how different past movies, such as the set of The Exorcist, the set of Poltergeist, the set of The Omen, even on the set of The Conjuring, the actress Joy King talks about the calamities that took place in her life while filming this movie. We have to realize, people, that we live in a natural physical world, but there is definitely a spiritual world that impacts the natural world, and that we are in definitely a spiritual battle that's taking place, good versus evil, that there are real satanic demonic beings out there that hate mankind. So in this video expose, we'll take a look at things that happen within present day horror movies, such as the Deliverance movie set, that seems like it was a curse, and past horror movie sets where things that occur will definitely seem like there was a curse that's going on. We have to also make sure that we're not viewing, as Christians, this type of material, bringing this material into our home, or going and sitting in front of a movie screen watching this. We have to ask ourselves, is God really pleased with this? And are we opening up potential doorways? Folks, this is more than just entertainment. It is natural, but also spiritual parameters that take place. So we have to be aware of the wiles of the devil, and we have to make sure that we don't open up ourselves to demonic things in our life, which we will examine in this video, how past and present horror movies have really opened up such doorways where people have experienced some demonic things, whether sickness, things of violence, and even death has occurred in the making of a lot of these films. God bless, and hopefully you'll be enlightened by this video. Please subscribe or leave a like, and let's get this ball rolling to view these cursed movie sets of horror movies.
One of the things that I read about that I was like, okay, this is deep. You know, nowadays, when there's sex scenes in films, they have an intimacy coach that comes around and makes sure nothing goes wrong. You know, nobody's touching where they shouldn't. But you had like a religious kind of like person on set, the kind of to do deliverances.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Because I read the making of Exorcist. I read the making of what was that Poltergeist, and things happen. Yeah. And I was not going to let things happen on my set, and also I needed it for me, and so we prayed before every. And there's those of us that don't believe in prayer. There were those that don't, and it was still okay. I think, Glenn, we brought you in and we prayed. You prayed, and was that your first time sort of experiencing that sort of experience too?
Praying in a circle on a set?
Yeah.
Yes. With somebody, with a deliverer who spoke in tongues sometime? Yes. Mm-hmm. I thought it was incredible.
Yeah.
But you would say, okay, we're going to pray now. Anybody want to come? We're going to do it now. You know, so everybody knew what we were doing, and they could choose to come or not, and it didn't matter.
Well, okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Monique.
So Lee didn't tell me that there was someone that was going to come to my trailer.
Oh my goodness.
To pray. So when he came to my trailer, he said, "I'm coming to pray for you." I said, "My husband already does that. I'm good."
Right. You was like,
You was like, "No, thank you."
No. You was like, "I got Sydney. Don't come over here."
I don't know who this man is.
Right.
Imagine somebody
forgot
saying,
to tell
"I'm
Mo."
going to come pray for you." I said, "No, you're not."
That's what he came back and said. He said, "She said no." Yeah, but it was really beautiful, and I think that we needed it, and it was needed for.
Yeah.
It was needed.
It was needed for the storytelling too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's deep, dark stuff, and you got to have some kind of release, and you got to have a safe space.
And even with that, there were still things that happened on the set. That was, my sister is in every movie that I've ever done as my good luck charm, and she was in the scene with Glenn in the chemo scene, and she's the one that sort of gave her attitude in the chemo scene. Girly.
Yes, girly, we love her.
And 2 days later, after being in the chemo scene, she was diagnosed with lung cancer.
What?
Literally, my dog died on the set. When we were putting she was spraying the demon out. A fire extinguisher. It backfired in her face. It could have put her eye out. It was, and that's with all the prayer that we had.
The first strange thing to happen surrounding the film was when filming early on, the set depicting the McNeil's home caught fire and destroyed much of the building. But what made this even weirder was that the part of the building that contained Reagan's room, where the exorcism was to take place, was completely untouched by the destruction. The source of the blaze was never factually determined, but the insurance claim stated that a pigeon flew into an electrical box and ignited the building. Considering the story was inspired by an actual exorcism that took place in St. Louis in the 1940s, the cast and crew began to get scared at the thought of an evil presence plaguing them. According to a source that works at CBS, they called in a priest to bless the set after the 6 weeks it took to rebuild it. But the strange happenings only continued. During the possession scenes, Linda Blair, the actress who played Reagan, had to be strapped to an apparatus that would flail her about. During one such scene, one of the straps came loose, and the machine shook her so violently that it fractured her lower spine. This left the actress in agony, and she continues to have back issues to this day. She wasn't the only actress injured, however. During a particularly violent exorcism scene, the actress Elaine Boosty was knocked down and also fractured her lower spine. This injury also left her in agony and delayed shooting past the scheduled deadline, which almost jeopardized the entire film even getting released. Both scenes where the actresses were injured made the final cut for the movie. Jason Miller, the actor who played the Jesuit priest Father Karras, who helps exorcise Reagan, was approached one day as he strolled down the street on his way to filming. He was approached by an actual priest, who apparently had no knowledge that such a book even existed, or that the film was even being made. He told Miller that if you reveal the devil for the trickster that he is, he will seek retribution against you, or he will even try to stop what you are doing to unmask him. He then handed Miller a blessed medallion and continued on his way. As if this wasn't weird enough, a total of 5 deaths and 1 murderer are connected to the film. Jason Miller's son nearly died in a motorcycle accident, and this called into question whether or not he could even finish the film at the time. Jake McGowan died of influenza prior to the film's release. Vasiliki Malarios also died prior to the film's release. Barton Heyman died of a heart attack just 2 years after the film was released at the age of 59, and Lee J. Cobb also died of a heart attack just 2 years after the film was released as well. The murderer was actor and radiographer Paul Bateson, who was convicted of 1 murder during the filming. He was also linked to a string of 6 other serial murders, but was never convicted. Once the film was completed and released, as it was premiering in Rome, it was playing in a cinema that was located between 2 cathedrals. It began to storm heavily, and lightning struck the 400-year-old cross at the top of one of the cathedrals, and it caused it to fall and strike the cinema, causing an evacuation of the building. But against the odds, the film did make it all the way to the end of production and premiered on silver screens across the world, ushering in a new age of horror. And with all the unexplained happenings surrounding the film, it certainly makes one think that perhaps the devil really was plaguing the production.
Do you notice anything unusual?
No, sorry.
Well, at first I thought this was just a fault in the film. It's a strange coincidence. Then it happened again. Interesting, don't you think?
All during the picture, there was strange things happening. And it was an aura of not being welcomed. I mean, the devil was really, I really sincerely believe that the devil didn't want the picture to be made.
If we had been making a comedy, you would have recalled all the funny, great, ridiculous, silly moments that happened in that film. If you were doing a love story, you'd remember all the times somebody left their wife, no one fell in love, and the grand dead body, You're doing The Omen, anything that happens on that film. You don't tell about the jokes, you don't tell about the love stories, you don't even think about it, but you think about anything that coincidentally could have been something to do with The Omen. So we had lots of them.
There were all kinds of incidents during the shooting of this film, and the newspapers thought we made them up.
Peck's plane was coming over, a TWA flight that was a direct flight from LA, everybody was always on, it got hit by lightning. 3 days later, David Seltzer was on the same flight. His plane was hit by lightning. I was being let out of my car by Harvey Bernhard, out of his car to go into my house, and some guy came along and whammoed the door, slammed me in between the two, and miraculously I didn't lose a leg or anything.
We were in the midst of the IRA bombing all over London, and we had reservations at a restaurant an hour before. Scott's, it was blown up. The Green Park subway station was blown up as we were walking toward it.
We chartered an airplane, a Hawker Siddeley. We had no money. We were going to shoot with it on the ground at this small airport. We got a call from the people and said, listen, we have a full charter that day that if you let us charter out, we'll give you the plane for practically nothing. Well, sure, go ahead and use it. That day, they used it. And they took off. The plane hit a flock of birds. The engines quit. They lost airspeed, crashed on to the end of the runway, went down into the street, hit a car and killed everybody in the car. In the car were the wife and 2 children of the pilot. True story. Every newspaper has it and everything else. The Omen. I mean, it could have happened to us. If we had been shooting that day, maybe it would have been us.
We had an emergency landing in Newfoundland, and we were carrying the negative. And I said, I just don't think we're going to get back.
We shot at the Windsor Wild Safari Park. We shot a sequence with lions that never made the screen. The day we left the lion compound to go into the baboon section, the guard was in his little booth. I guess left his door open. 2 lions came in, attacked him, and killed him. That day,
John Richardson was on a bridge too far in Belgium. He was our special effects man. He had a beautiful girlfriend. He was driving and had a head-on accident and beheaded his girl. And John is the one that he had invented the beheading of our picture. And so his girl was beheaded, and then he woke up and he saw Liège, 6.6 kilometers. That was frightening.
we had all these things happen. Are they omens? Because is there something bigger?
Poltergeist was one of the most storied productions in Hollywood history. In fact, it's often called the most cursed film set of all time because of what happened to so many of its stars after the movie hit theaters.
They're here.
But even during the making of the now classic movie, there were enough real-life scares to justify that reputation. Let's take a look at some of the freakiest things that happened behind the scenes of this haunted house favorite. Coincidental cast deaths. Perhaps the most enduringly buzzy aspect of the Poltergeist movie legend is that so many of its cast members, including 2 of the child stars, died unexpectedly after the film was released. The first instance happened when Dominic Dunne, who portrayed Dana in the original film, was strangled to death by her ex-boyfriend in the driveway of her home in 1982, at the age of just 22. Then, in 1988, child star Heather O'Rourke died at the age of 12 from cardiac arrest after experiencing septic shock from a congenital bowel obstruction. She completed filming on the 3rd installment of the Poltergeist franchise a few months before her unexpected death, but the film had yet to be released at the time. Although other cast members would later perish from more natural causes, the expiration of the film's 2 young actresses caused many to speculate that their involvement with the supernatural movie had something to do with their untimely demises. Creepy clown attack. Before Dunne and O'Rourke's deaths, there was another eerie incident which nearly claimed the life of one of the Freeling children off-screen. Actor Oliver Robbins, who portrayed the middle child Robbie, was actually strangled by the very animatronic clown that tormented his character so in the film. If it weren't for the intervention of producer Steven Spielberg, he's not sure what would have happened to him. Nothing good, probably. As Robbins recalled, the way they shot the sequence, they didn't really have the special effects the way they do today. So the clown doll had this extended arm, and they had me act backwards. The contraption caught around my neck. Steven saw that, probably in the video assist deck, and he pulled me away from it. Who knows what might have happened otherwise? It was very fast. Maybe I wouldn't be here today. As if that demonic clown wasn't already scary enough. Real skeletons. Achieving authenticity in a Hollywood production can be tough, especially in the sci-fi horror realm. But this might be taking things a little too far. You know the scene when the Freeling mom is thrown in the muddy pool and all these corpses start to float to the surface around her, causing her to scream and freak out? Well, if that reaction seemed especially realistic to you, there may be a reason. Actress Jo Beth Williams revealed during her Reddit AMA, when we were shooting, I thought the skeletons were fake. I thought the prop department made them. But later I found out they were real skeletons bought very cheaply. That really grossed me out. Talk about suffering for your craft.
Moved the cemetery, but you left the bodies, didn't you? You left the bodies and you only moved the headstones!
Haunted homes. Williams experienced a series of frights in her temporary home during production on the first installment as well. She said in her AMA that the picture on her apartment wall kept shifting while she left to shoot the movie, but she later decided it was her own fault for slamming the front door. That's still just her theory, but hey, whatever helps her sleep at night. Meanwhile, author James Caan, who was writing the novelization of the movie, also experienced a case of the heebie-jeebies at home. A lightning bolt struck his building as he was finishing up the project and blew the facing of his air conditioning unit across the room, which struck him in the back. After that, the lights came back on and his video games started playing themselves. And director Gil Keenan had perhaps the biggest case of shivers surrounding Poltergeist while filming the 2015 remake. The house he rented for production was the site of some minor inexplicable phenomena, like lights flickering on and off for no reason, and other equipment only working in certain portions of the property. He explained on his own Reddit AMA, The house that I rented during filming was straight up legit haunted by a female spirit dressed in black, and I became aware of her within the first few days of staying in the house. And only after I left did I receive a call from the previous owner, who had moved back in and was terrified by the goings-on in the house, and wanted to see if I had experienced any of it. She definitely was there. It didn't follow me back to Los Angeles, but it followed me from set back to where I was sleeping during filming. If that story was just some elaborate marketing ploy, it worked, because there are plenty of people who fully believe there was something otherworldly going on with the Poltergeist movies.
How do you know that? Because I am smart.
On-set oddities. Poltergeist 2 star Will Sampson, who was a real-life shaman and portrayed Taylor the Medicine Man in the sequel, performed an actual exorcism on the set of the film to rid the site of alien spirits. He died a little over a year after the film's release from complications associated with a heart and lung transplant. And during filming of Poltergeist 3, actress Zelda Rubinstein was troubled by a photographic light blur that occurred during a photo session of the actress, leading her to believe that the pic was taken at the exact moment her mother passed away. The production of Part 3 was also an explosive one, as a garage that was to be used for filming caught fire after plastic fake ice poured onto prop cars ignited into flames and injured 3 crew members. A fire chief responding to the scene told the Los Angeles Times, "A ball of fire chased everyone out there. There was black smoke all over the place. This was all supposed to be done with the best of taste, but somehow it got away." The cause of the mishap, he said, was unexplained, since the crew on set were amply prepared to pull off the shot correctly when they began working that night.
I know, but there are many dangers you must consider, Stephen.
Sounds like the choice to use real-life skeletons came back to haunt everyone involved in this franchise.
The scary movie where you started getting bruises all over your body during the filming?
That was The Conjuring. That movie's awesome.
Okay.
That's
I'm a big Conjuring fan. Yeah.
That movie is so fucked up. That movie messed me up for my whole life.
How do you explain that all of a sudden during the filming of the movie, mysterious bruises show up on you?
All right. Okay. Let's jump into this story, because this story, it's so weird. And this is truly like the root of why I'm so scared of that movie. So, in the story, when the mom gets possessed, she gets all these bruises on her. And so during the filming of those particular scenes, I started having a lot of bruises show up on my body in bizarre places, like on my stomach, on my chest. Like, what? And so the makeup ladies thought I was stealing their fake bruises and like playing a joke on them. And I was like, why would I do that? I'm not doing that. That's crazy. They didn't believe me. They tried to take my real bruises off with like rubbing alcohol and oil. And I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm not lying. I went to the doctor. I got a couple blood tests because they told me it looked like it could potentially be early signs of leukemia. I was so freaked out. I mean, by the way, I'm 12. Like, what doctor says that to a 12-year-old? What kind of bedside manner is that? So I get these blood tests. All of a sudden, I'm told that I have this blood thinning condition called ITP, where basically most of my red platelets drained from my body mysteriously. I'd never had a blood problem in the past. I've never had a blood problem since then. No one in my family has that. So I was at risk of needing a blood transfusion, and they were like scared to even let me work. And because if I like touched something, I could get a bruise there. It was weird. And so I had to go to the hospital every day, twice a day, before and after work, to get my blood taken to check my platelets and to try and rebuild my platelets on my own by taking a lot of iron. And they were just creeping up for the duration of the shoot. Shooting finishes, I go home, and I still have to keep up with this bullshit. And then when I came home, my platelets were completely fine. Like, I was back up to the normal numbers, and I've never since had a trace of that disorder.
So no wonder you're freaked out by ghosts.
Are you kidding me? Like, I was just like, you know what? This is it for me. Like, I've had a good run. I'm 12 years old. I'm just gonna, get killed by a ghost now. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
That is such a weird story, and no one has an explanation for it.
I feel so freaked out by it. It's like so scary. The other day, I looked up a photo of the witch from the movie, because that's the real name of the woman. And I felt so scared typing her name into my web browser. I was like, she's watching me. She's going to kill me.
By the way, who is that person behind you?
Oh my God. My heart just like jumped in my
I was just trying to scare you.
Yeah, and it worked. It